Can humans deal with anything? Bill Nye, who considers humans unstoppable, thinks so, but he also notes that they have no choice. He'll explain next on Global Perspectives.
This is Global Perspectives with Pulitzer Prize-winning commentator John Bercia.
Welcome to Global Perspectives. Once you become the science guy, is it possible to stop? Apparently not for Bill Nye, who's just published a new book called Unstoppable. He's as enthusiastic about science as ever, as you'll see in this special on-location episode of Global Perspectives. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nye.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So tell us, when did you first become interested in climate change in the sense that you were concerned about it?
When I first got concerned about it was probably 1988, that summer, when James Hansen, who's now, he's a NASA scientist at GISS, Goddard Institute for Space Studies. And he testified in front of Congress about the seriousness of climate change. In June, I think it was June 18th, 1988. Anyway, so that's when I first started getting concerned about it. And on the Science Guy show, we did several demonstrations about climate change in the 1990s, over 20 years ago, and hardly anything has happened.
So, and we still have a problem with those who doubt and who dispute.
In the United States, we certainly do.
Why is that?
Well, because the fossil fuel industry has worked very hard to promote this idea that plus or minus some small percentage in scientific tolerance, plus or minus 2%, is the same as plus or minus 100%. It's doubt about the whole thing. And they've worked very hard to introduce that idea. And they've been successful. James Inhofe from Oklahoma thinks that if he finds a snowball, it means there's no climate change. In my opinion, sort of the laziest thinking is a conspiracy theory, where if only there were 60 people in charge of everything screwing it up, you just have to get those 60 people and everything would be fine. But there's no conspiracy of scientists. And then here in Florida, I'm laughing out loud, but your governor will not allow his staff to say climate change in meetings or in documents. Sorry. It's a very serious issue, but that's silly. I mean, I love you all, but come on. Meanwhile, the city engineer in Miami Beach is working very hard to address climate change.
So for those who aren't as familiar with the issue as you are, what would be 2 or 3 really significant examples of how climate change is upon us and causing severe problems?
Well, today there's enormous floods in the south of the United States, southeast of the United States. And you cannot tie, it's very difficult to tie any one heat event to climate change. Cold events are now being successfully tied. They can home in with enough accuracy to show the connection. But anyway, so there's more heat energy in the atmosphere. So it rains more because water from the ocean evaporates more. It also generally snows more, as it did out west this year. And then the other thing in Florida, with all these coastal cities, all these coastal areas, when you get the world just a little bit warmer, the ocean gets bigger. And just everybody raising the temperature of an entire planet 2 degrees Fahrenheit or 1.5 degrees Celsius, that is a huge amount of heat energy. We're talking about septillions of joules, of kilowatt hours. And so when you make the ocean just a little bit bigger, there's flooding. You can't get, in many parts of the city of Miami, you can't get insurance for your car because the wheels rust. All the parking lots flood with salty water so frequently. And the floods, there have always been floods, but now they're bigger and more frequent and so on. And the irony is, people are investing enormous amounts of money to live right on the ocean. And the ocean's coming ashore, like Norfolk, Virginia, the ocean's coming in and people are moving.
So in the end, you'll have to move and move those cities.
Yeah, so this is a big thing. This is in the developed world. We're talking about in the next 30 years, which is a long time, but it's not that long. And people are going to move away from the shore. And where are they going to go? And what are they going to do for a living? And what's going to happen to all that infrastructure, all the copper wiring and plumbing and building materials and parking lots and car dealerships and convenience stores? It's not that the coastal regions of Florida, especially South Florida, are going to be under 30 feet of water. They're going to be under 6 inches of water. And that's enough. You can't be there. You'll leave. You can put sandbags out in front of your business for a while, but people aren't going to come to it if they can't drive there. And so Florida is the most affected state, sort of Florida, Louisiana, and yet you have a governor that's in denial about this. It's really it's a chin stroker.
So your new book, Unstoppable, is about this issue.
Yep.
And you were telling some interesting anecdotes about your experiences in China, where you actually rode a bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
Which is less and less common there.
Well, actually, I saw this morning on CBS News that a story about Beijing now has a shared bicycle program, trying to get people to get back on bicycles. Yeah, so this guy who's a member of the Planetary Society, who was at that time applying to graduate school in physics. Now I'm pretty sure I got an email from him. He's doing his postdoc. Anyway, his father rode a bicycle for years, but he was able to get a car. Their family's income this is back in, I guess, 2008. His family's income had gotten high enough where his dad just didn't ride his bike anymore. So he lent it to me. And I rode his bike all over Beijing. I mean, many tourist destinations in Beijing. It's very easy to get around when the weather's nice. And also when I was there, they did not have the crazy pollution they have right now. So it was acceptable. But looking at pictures and talking to this guy who's at the Union of Concerned Scientists, who's fluent in Chinese and worked there for a long time, the air is so bad that people just don't ride as much. It's crazy.
Tell us a little bit about your own science education and in particular your experiences with Carl Sagan.
Well, so I'm a mechanical engineer. I went to engineering school. And just for anybody out there, when you're a mechanical engineer, all I took is physics, okay, you guys? That's all I did. I don't know, how long are you there? 8 semesters? I took 8 semesters of physics, and then all the courses you take are actually based on physics. And okay. But I took one elective. I took astronomy, rather, as an elective. Took one course in astronomy as an elective, and Carl Sagan was a professor, and it was the coolest thing. He was so compelling. His lectures, his style of speaking, his insights, and how he connected one thing to the next were just amazing. He was fantastic. So he started the Planetary Society 3 years after I was graduated. And I joined the Planetary Society. And now I'm the CEO of the Planetary Society, 35 years later. Like, what's going on? So he had a huge effect on me.
What do you think he would say if he were alive today?
Well, he and James Pollock, another researcher, really developed these early computer models of climate change based on nuclear war, which sounds like just this crazy idea that you would have so many nuclear weapons exploded, they would throw so much debris in the atmosphere that the world would get cooler, and they coined this term nuclear winter. And this is before all the major climate research that's been done recently. By recently, I mean the last 3 decades. But the parameters or the physical constants they chose to model are the same ones that people use today. There are people that argue that any computer model is really derivative of Sagan and Pollock. Okay, I don't know if that's true, but they're very logical things. Humidity in the atmosphere, temperature of the ocean, surface area of the land, inclination of the Earth in its orbit, the eccentricity of the Earth's orbit, all these things, very traditional things you would take into account. And then 3 years later, Walter Alvarez verified or came up with this crazy idea that the Earth had been hit with an asteroid or an impactor of so big that it threw enough debris in the atmosphere to cause the Earth to cool off and cause the demise of the large ancient dinosaurs, or finish them off. And these two ideas converged in the 1980s. It's really something. So now everybody is pretty sure that a big impact finished off a large number of the ancient dinosaurs, of the large ancient dinosaurs. And you don't want to get hit with an asteroid. That is bad. You don't want that.
So did you ever have an opportunity for one-on-one conversations with Carl Sagan?
So when I was at my 10th college reunion, I made an appointment to see him, which was a lot of messing around. You know, you had to get through his assistant. He was hugely successful. The series Cosmos made him an international celebrity, and he'd written a couple books, 3 books by then. But I talked to him for 5 minutes. And he'd said, kids resonate to pure science. That was the verb he used, resonate. And so he really emphasized to me, not, if I were going to do science presentations, not to talk about technology, talk about pure science. And that is largely why I think the Science Guy shows are still shown in school. The principles we demonstrated are the same ones true today. The uncertainties are still uncertain and so on.
But in your book, you said you consider us unstoppable as a species. And we're here on this planet. We don't have any choice but to be here.
Yeah.
Although some may get to other places eventually.
And there's a few I'd like to send.
Yeah. But are you of the belief that we're going to resolve this problem, or we can resolve it? Does that fall to this generation?
Problem, climate change?
Climate change?
Well, it's going to, humankind will live through it. I mean, even if the Earth gets extraordinarily hot and miserable. But the quality of life of so many people is going to go down. And if these big diseases show up, you know, people forget. In my dad's day, or my grandfather's day rather, 50 million people died of the Spanish flu. There's more people than died in combat of World War I. And the Spanish flu was just an extraordinarily virulent strain. And as you let the world get warmer, more of these, especially tropical diseases, will be extant. We'll be able to make a living preying on humans. And so, I mean, the scale of it's really hard to get. And the reason, a big reason European settlers were able to take over the North American continent for a while was because they had smallpox, which just killed so many people who had come from Asia the other way. The first Americans, First Nations people, were wiped out by this thing. And so if you start, I mean, if you like to worry about things, this is a great time. Because if you start having these big pandemics, as they're called, you could end up with a lot of people dead. And the people alive have to deal with them, the dead people. And if you end up with, say, all your computer programmers that run the internet die over the course of 6 months, you're going to have huge problems, man. And so these are apocalyptic notions, but climate change is serious business. You know, the sooner we get to work on it, the better.
And you have a lot of faith in the next generation, the next great generation,
That's right.
as you put it.
The next great generation, that's what I'm counting on. These kids today, with their computer machines. Yes. So I'm really hopeful that they'll get to work on this. We want to electrify all ground transportation. We want all cars to be electric, trains to be electric. And then we want to make air travel powered by renewable fuel. Hydrogen would be really good. Or biofuels made from, we train or genetically modify something like algae to produce sufficient quantities of kerosene to make planes fly, maybe. And we get to work on this, and we take carbon out of the air, carbon capture, and we do everything all at once. Let's go.
You have a chapter in the book that deals with wind power. How much potential does wind power have as part of the solution?
Well, in the United States, it's well over half. We could get half of our energy from the wind, just like that. And by the way, in Florida, the enormous wind resources are right off the coast, all the way up sort of the eastern seaboard. We could erect wind turbines there and capture enough energy to run the place several times over. And you could do this in the pretty short term. So This organization called the Solutions Project, which is out of Stanford University in California, has done an analysis. Took them about 10 years. But you could power all 50 states renewably by 2050 if you wanted to. And by you, I mean us. And you say, well, that's not possible. That's only 25 years. That says we couldn't possibly. This is ridiculous. Well, my grandfather was in World War I on a horse. On a horse. World War II, nobody who went into that war went into it on a horse. Apparently there's some mythic cavalry in Russia that was destroyed by Panzer tanks or something. Okay, but that's not the way to go. Yeah. And destroyed is not good either when you're infantry cavalryman. So everything changed in just 2 decades because it was important. They won a world war, and they were called the greatest generation. And so let's go, people. Let's get to work. But you cannot run around denying it. Today, for whatever reason, all 4 of the conservative candidates are climate change deniers. But I wonder if that's going to last. After somebody has enough votes to be the candidate, I wonder if he's just going to say, I've been thinking about climate change and I changed my mind. And the reason he will do that is because you need some millennial voters to win the national election. You need some people in their 20s and 30s. You can't do it just with the arch conservatives who vote in primaries generally. And so in order to engage millennials who are very concerned about the environment and climate change, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever gets the nod changes his mind.
Another big issue in Florida is the space program.
Mm-hmm.
What role does space play in all of this and in the future of the country, for that matter, and the world?
So, a couple things. Space exploration, all the money that's spent in space is spent on Earth, everybody. And Florida has all this infrastructure for launching space assets, as we call them. And this is where we get our weather. This is where people take out their phones to determine which side of the street they're on. All that information comes from outer space, ultimately. So we need space exploration or space assets for that. And of course the military, oh my goodness, all the money, all the stuff that goes into military, spy satellites, reconnaissance, weather satellites. It's very important. But then in the bigger picture, we've discovered that Mars has water every Martian summer. And wherever we find living things on Earth, we find life. I mean, wherever we find water on Earth, we find living things, And so it's very reasonable that there's something still alive on Mars, some sort of crazy Martian microbe. And if we were to discover that, it would change the course of history. That's my opinion. It would be akin to Copernicus showing that you can predict the motions of the planets much better if you presume the Earth goes around the sun rather than the other way around. And or Galileo. The moon's not a perfect circle, it's full of craters. And it's not the only moon in the solar system, and so on. So space exploration, as I always say, brings out the best in us. And Florida has a huge tradition of that. The future is so bright for companies like SpaceX and Blue Origins and Sierra Nevada Corporation. They're just, all these people want to launch from lower latitudes in the U.S. And this is where Florida really has to compete. But right now, Florida is the place, right, with all the history. But I'm hoping that Florida is part of the history in the future, not just celebrating the accomplishments from, for example, the Apollo era. But I've been here, when was the last time I was here? June, for the launch of our LightSail spacecraft and that was great. I was here for the launch of Juno, which is going to orbit Jupiter this summer. I was here for the Curiosity rover, 2012. So, but the last launch I was here for was our Falcon 9. Atlas 5 LightSail launch, which was really good. But the next one, we're on the Falcon Heavy, which is supposed to be November. So we'll be back. And I get no compensation, but I am looking forward to my next trip to Ron John's.
Tell us about the future in terms of what causes you to be optimistic? You said there's a lot we can worry about, but
You
there's
have
a
to
lot
be
of things
optimistic.
we can fix. And can we fix it all at once, or are there certain pieces that we need to start with?
You have to be optimistic. If you don't think you're going to accomplish something, you absolutely will not accomplish it. So I just think about my parents and what they were able to do. They didn't set out to be the greatest generation. They were just going to school and stuff happened around them and they got involved. So I'm hoping as you find things happening around you, you will get involved and vote and so on.
What do you hope to see happen in terms of changing how we deal with
Well,
climate before you retire?
our dream in the engineering community, in the economics community, and everybody concerned about climate change everywhere in the world except here, is we have a fee associated with producing carbon dioxide. We have a tax on throwing methane or carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. If we had a reasonable tax on that, it would influence everything in an afternoon. It would be, by the way, the whole world is going to renewable energy. Fossil fuel powered economies are going to be in the past. So if you want to compete worldwide, you got to provide renewable energy or systems that provide and distribute clean water and clean electricity and reliable access to the internet, to information technology, to everyone in the world. So let's go, people. So the future is not in fossil fuels. I'm sorry. Everybody, if you travel around the world, everybody's moving away from that. And even Texas, which you might think of as an oil state, has 10% of its electricity from the wind, even today. 10% is huge. Mm-hmm. That's a huge start. So I'm hoping we'll get to work on this.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Bill Nye.
Vote, everybody. Did I mention that?
And for Global Perspectives, I'm John Bercia. We'll see you next time.